Will New York City survive? Everybody loves New York City, but New York City has changed over the past months after the pandemic. Will it survive? I'll tell you what I think. I have lived in New York City since 2002 and I've seen the city change. And yes, this pandemic that came to us out of the blue really ruined a lot of things, but there's also some good things. So I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why I'm making this video about New York City and if it will survive is because I saw there was a feud going on between these comedians. One was called James Altucher, and he wrote an op-ed called New York is Dead Forever, Here's Why. But then Jerry Seinfeld, he wrote in the New York Times, So You Think New York is Dead? And he was giving all the reasons why New York is not dead. We have now a lot of people coming out about, is New York City going to do well? Is it going to come back? Is it dead forever? What I think is that we are in a moment in time that for the locals is very interesting and it's actually very pleasant, believe it or not, if you live in certain areas that are very quiet. But if you live in the areas where the crime went up, like in Queens or Brooklyn and the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, yes, it's not that fun. Because the more crime, the less safe you feel. And New York City can only survive if the city feels safe. But since they have been going after the police and the police has been demoralized, I think that the police is not, they're not coming out to help as quickly as they used to. And it's not good for the city overall. So what we first need to do is give power back to the police and support them, be nice to them so they can actually do their job. New York City had a very high COVID spread in the beginning of March and April, and for some reason, New Yorkers complied with the rules. Everybody is wearing masks. We still have dinners outside on the terraces. Still no indoor dining. Still no gym use. Still no theaters. Everything that we know and love in New York City is not really happening right now. But what is happening here? The first months, a lot of people that were scared of the virus fled. And most of them have not come back. The months after, we saw people giving up their lease or their rent, and they have moved out of the city. They moved to other places. And some of them were actually looking first to maybe buy in the city, but now they decided to buy in the suburbs. You see more and more people leaving and buying something in the suburbs. Time will only tell if they're happy there or if they wish they waited it out and just got something in the city. Some say it's great to work remote, but we already noticed that locals that work remote, they're missing the city, they're missing all the social interaction. They want to go back to the office. So some think, oh yeah, we're never going to get back to the offices to work. I think they're wrong. I think that people will eventually go back to the offices again. I think Jerry Seinfeld had a point there that we need the energy of people together. You also notice it in the street, even though it's super quiet, the restaurants were allowed. This is a good thing that Mayor Blasio did. He did a lot wrong, but one thing he did good was give all these restaurants the opportunity to have a terrace outside on parking spaces. So what we see is that the locals are enjoying their summer and they're having dinner outside, and many restaurants are doing well that actually have these terraces. But it's just for the people that still live here, it's a nice vibe because the air is super clean. There's no big buses with tourists coming in. There's not that many Ubers, not that many taxis, not that many cars overall. So the air quality is super good. And the streets are pretty clean, even though the city doesn't clean as regularly as they usually do because there's less people, so they don't need to. So those are all good things. And the locals, like myself and our neighbors, we kind of watch the neighborhood more. We see if there's any vandalism. We try to take care of it ourselves if the city is not doing it. We see that there are some more people that are mentally disturbed, that have caused issues. We see more violence. We see more surge in crime, especially in neighborhoods that you wish we're going to be safer. And those are the neighborhoods that you actually want more cops in. So no defund the police. We actually need more police. But unfortunately, Mayor de Blasio has cut $1 billion of the police budget. And I actually think it's a bad thing, because if you think something needs more work or is not good and needs to be reformed, you actually put more money in to make it happen, and they're not doing it. So especially those poorer communities are going to suffer, and I'm really sad about it. You see that people that are opportunists, they go somewhere else, and then I hope that they find a great place to live. But New York City will come back, and it will basically become, will adjust to the new situation. What I saw the local people do here was support the smaller local businesses. I'm very happy to see that. If you're a local business that has a good product, or you're a great restaurant, you will get the support from local people. You will get through this. But if you haven't invested or are not smart with your money and are not really giving a product or a service that is needed, you will suffer. And I think even in the great days in New York, we had an issue with a lot of empty spaces, because the issue is that the owners of the spaces, they want a very high rent. And if they can't get it, they won't rent it because they can deduct it from the taxes. So we had a lot of empty spaces, but now it's going to go overboard. There will be so many empty spaces that they have to do something about it. So I foresee lower rents and more opportunities for smaller businesses to come in. I also saw, for instance, that we have a lot of rental apartments that are empty right now. I heard it was like over 13 or 14,000. This gives opportunities for anybody that always wanted to live in New York City. I even saw some advertising yesterday of an apartment that was offered, and then you would get no broker fee and free rent for a few months. So they're doing everything now to try to get you to rent. And if you compare it to like 6 months ago, where it was very hard to get an apartment, and if you saw one, you had to go there and rent it right away or you would miss out, it's definitely changed a lot. But this gives opportunities to people that would otherwise maybe not be able to live here or, be part of it. Every traumatic thing, every negative situation will bring opportunity to those who see the opportunity. And if you're positive, you will do well. I saw that Compass CEO Robert Reffkin, he was talking also about that he sees opportunity in the real estate market, that New York City will always come back. Just like Jerry Seinfeld said, Rome, London, all these old cities, they have come back from bad times. New York City will come back too. In September, the gyms can open again. The indoor dining is not open yet, but we'll have to see. There are people that are worried of a big surge in infections. I think we all need to take that into account, be prepared for it. And I will do that as well. But you have to, when you face a storm, you have to be strong. You cannot freak out, because then you can never make it anywhere and you can never build your life and build your business. You need to be strong and full of confidence. And that's how I feel about New York City. And we don't have the greatest mayor, but in a little bit he can be voted out again. So then a new mayor can help rebuild. Also, Mayor de Blasio, he had this idea to put homeless people in all these empty hotels because the tourists have not been here. So these rooms are empty. So he thought, I'll pay $175 per person per room to get all these people in there. And apparently 50 hotels are involved, but most of them don't want to tell people that they're involved in this, because that tourists would never want to stay there again. But 9 hotels were discovered already, and the people that live around these hotels, they have been complaining about the drug abuse and selling of drugs in front of their streets. There are areas in Manhattan where it is a little bit of a problem with all the homeless that are hanging out and drug use. But if you drive through the city at night, most places in Manhattan are quiet. So that's a good thing, because Manhattan is the place that everybody wants to visit always when they come to New York. So if we can heal that and keep it strong, then I see a good future for New York. Even though Soho and other areas have been damaged, there are also people who probably, when they can come to New York as a tourist again, they want to see how it looks now and how it was damaged, and maybe want to join in with the rebuilding by spending money at the local restaurants and stores. So some neighbors and I were discussing, oh my God, I think that at one point we will look back at this time and think, oh, remember the peace and quiet? Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio, they are asking locals or people that used to live in New York City, please come back. We need your taxes, because if we don't have taxes, we have no revenue. Then we cannot afford all these employees. But they're going to lay off a lot of people already. So there are going to be more people unemployed. And definitely they're not really good with money. And they also always fight with President Trump. So if President Trump doesn't give them money, I understand. Because why do you want to give money to people that always try to challenge you and blame you for everything and call you names? Like, it makes no sense. They're trying to find new ways to pay for this big gap between the revenue and the expenses. I think it's time for them to be very creative and in a positive way. But we'll have to see the coming months. So during the pandemic, people that were scared left, and we had the looting all over town in end of May, beginning of June. Still, a lot of businesses are locked up and closed off. Some will not come back. I've heard numbers like 30% of restaurants are not making it, 30% of businesses are not going to make it. I've heard of local businesses that have issues with the landlord because they still want their rent. Some landlords suck. They don't really want to give in and help their small businesses. What I can say is that the government, the federal government, has helped with the PPP plan and giving people money so they can still stay in their home. And Governor Cuomo has extended the eviction block until September 20th. But at one point, that all has to happen. So we will see a shift in, I think, fall and winter. It will be tough, I think, but it also brings opportunities. And I think, just like Jerry Seinfeld, yes, I also believe you, James, that New York is dead at the moment, and only the local people that are the diehard New Yorkers will stay and they will take care of the city. And they actually have a good time. They're making the best of it. Whatever comes their way, they make the best of it. Those are the true New Yorkers. But you have people that only want to be here when everything is great. Those are probably also not people that really are involved with local communities as much, because if you are involved, you don't want to leave it. You want to be there in good days and in bad days. So I feel like I'm a New Yorker that wants to stay here through the good and the bad. Also, a lot of my friends have left, unfortunately, but I understand. But it is sad. I wish that more people would have stayed and help rebuild New York City. The passion of those New Yorkers that stayed, that still want to make this a great place. And yes, the taxes will go up. And yes, we will lose jobs and we'll have more homeless people. But I think we, the New Yorkers, can make it work. I think that New York will survive because New York is built on the New Yorkers, and the strong New Yorkers will always survive. That's why we're called New York Tough. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and let me know what you think if New York is going to survive. See you later. Bye-bye.